I cannot believe, Perry Groves, it was 1 week ago, pretty much nearly 24/7 ago, that Oleksandr Usyk defeated Tyson Fury to retain his unified heavyweight world titles and prove his status, I think it's got to be said, as a generational great, with another close points win in their rematch in Saudi Arabia. Of course, inflicted a first career defeat on Fury by split decision in May. Usyk once again prevailed. All three judges scored it 116, 112 to the 37-year-old champion, and Usyk extended his undefeated record to 23 pro wins. Did you watch the fight, Perry, by the way? Yeah. You enjoy it?
Do you know what? Obviously, we'll talk to Duke about it, but
yeah,
I know it was very technical and, for the purists, but I was disappointed in Tyson Fury. I was expecting more from him. Perhaps, it's me being, a bit of a sort of mug punter, but I didn't think that Fury did enough. I know he was complaining about decisions, but I think you've got to take the title away from the champion. And Tyson Fury, I know I'm a big Tyson Fury fan, he actually disappointed me.
Let's now speak to a legend, because Duke McKenzie, a former three-weight world champion, joins us live on talkSPORT on the Sports Bar Weekender. Duke, thank you so much for your time. Good evening. Were you disappointed in Tyson Fury's performance last weekend?
Listen, good evening, Sam and Perry.
Hi, Duke.
It's a pleasure to be on again. I was disappointed in the performance simply because all the pre-fight talk about Tyson Fury and what he was going to do and what he wasn't going to do didn't materialise. Now, you can look at that two ways. You can either say to yourself, Usyk is that good, or Fury just didn't perform. Listen, this is the biggest stage, and he's known, obviously, for months in advance about this fight, took himself off into training camp, had all of these amazing reports about how great he was looking in training and how he was so focused, and he's been training diligently to get the best out of himself. Now, the most thing that really surprises me is the fact that on fight night, Tyson Fury's 4 stone, you can count with me if you want, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's 4 stone heavier than Oleksandr Usyk, and he should have smashed him to pieces. With a 4 stone weight advantage, he should have absolutely ruined Oleksandr Usyk. I can't ever remember a time in my life where there's been that sort of a discrepancy in weight, and the champion or the challenger hasn't walked away with the title. I know he's gone in there as the challenger this time, but he didn't fight like the challenger. He boxed like he was still the champion. You can't do that in world title boxing. When you're challenging for a world title, you've got to be seen to be taking the title. And Oleksandr Usyk didn't allow Fury to do that, and Fury didn't do that. So that was the most disappointing thing for me. The weight issue, because he never used it to his full advantage. And the fact that we can say that Usyk's brilliance just made him look pedestrian at times.
Do you know what, Duke? I couldn't agree more, because I'm watching it, and you mentioned like fighters and boxers, right?
Yeah.
I think Tyson Fury is a fighter. He's been fighting, since he was probably 6 or 7. And we saw against Deontay Wilder, obviously we had the unbelievable recovery and then he come back and he actually started to fight. I think he went into like anti-Joshua mode. I think he went to, especially in, from like the 8th and 9th round where it's tight. I'm with you. I'm thinking, if I'm as big as him against a small, I know that Usyk's brilliant with his movement and his feet and his head, whatever. You've got to let your hands go. You've got to take a chance of risking being hit to land that 2 or 3, like heavy knockout punches. And he didn't do it. Do you know what I mean? He didn't. I'm sitting thinking, come on, mate, you've got to start letting your hands go free. And he didn't do it. It was just very strange.
Yeah, there was no point in that fight for me where Tyson Fury said to himself, you know what, I'm going to roll the dice.
Yeah.
I'm going to get this guy and I'm going to make sure I cement this victory, because, like I say, at the end of the day, talk's cheap. We can all talk a good fight. When it comes to it and the bell goes, you've got to be able to back that up. And he didn't back it up. I don't want to sound like I'm being negative or damning or he had a bad fight. He didn't have a bad fight. He just didn't do enough. And it was in my opinion, it was way off. I made him lose comfortably by 3 rounds.
A lot of the talk.
Possibly 4.
Sorry, yeah, Duke, a lot of the talk now over the past week has been about what's next for Tyson Fury. Should Fury finally now face Anthony Joshua? And the big question probably is, Duke, does that fight still hold the same big appeal as what it did maybe a couple of years ago?
Yeah, listen, this is boxing. This is heavyweight boxing that we're talking about. This is arguably, 2 and 3 in the world, possibly, potentially squaring off against one another. They don't have anywhere else they can go. They can't afford to fight anybody else. They might get beat. And then that fight's gone forever then. If Fury fights AJ, it doesn't matter if he fights him next week, next month. They've got to fight within the next sort of 2 to 3 months, you would imagine. Then that fight is going to sell out because that's the fight everybody craves. That's the fight everybody wants to see. It's the fight everybody wanted to see 6 months ago, a year ago. Hasn't happened for different reasons. But I think now that we've got the sheikh involved and he's putting his money where his mouth is, that fight could happen at the drop of a hat.
What about Usyk? Because I personally think that he goes up in there in the pantheons of the all-time greats. He's obviously definitely a generational great. But where does he go next?
I think for Oleksandr Usyk, the most obvious fight for him has to be the Daniel Dubois fight. I know Dubois made himself look a little bit, let's say, unsavoury in his antics to try and force the fight.
Exactly. It wasn't the most advisory thing to do, was it? He looked a bit of what are you doing, Daniel? Yeah,
to try and force that fight. But I mean, listen, Daniel Dubois cannot look past Joseph Parker. And there's always going to be another challenger out there. And Parker's a live opponent. Because he knows this is his last roll of the dice. And he will come prepared. Unlike some people I might not mention, he'll come prepared and he'll come to fight because Joseph Parker's on a bit of a roll at the moment, and it's a good step up in terms of class for Daniel Dubois. So we can gauge him to see where he is as a champion. I think personally he does a number on Parker. Daniel Dubois right now he's in beast mode, and he's so dangerous right now, Daniel Dubois. And you wouldn't want to put AJ anywhere near him. I'd even go as far as to saying Fury wants to give him a wide berth also, because Daniel Dubois right now is very much, as I keep saying, he's on the ascendancy. He's young, he's the right side of 30, and he's fearless, Daniel Dubois.
Is there any chance that Usyk could just call it a day and retire at the absolute top with the belts as the best in the world? He'll go out on top.
Yeah, well, there's 2 chances of that happening, slim and none.
Yeah. Fair enough.
You've seen the money they're throwing around in Saudi. Exactly, yeah.
He's not about to walk away from boxing. Oleksandr Usyk, because he's been this unbelievable cruiserweight, now he's moved into the heavyweight division and taken that same unbelievable fitness and the same unbelievable skill set to the heavyweights. He's almost making the rest of the heavyweights look pedestrian, because they're just so much slower than he is. They're like 2 steps behind. I don't only mean in terms of his speed. I mean in his thought pattern, his thought process. Oleksandr Usyk is like 2 steps ahead of just about any of the heavyweights that are out there. However, with the exception, there's only one guy out there right now who can give Usyk any kind of a threat or is a threat to him, and that's Martin Bakole. Now, nobody's calling out Bakole for obvious reasons. They've made him the president of the Who Needs Him Club. Nobody wants to fight him because the guy is a lethal wrecking machine. And when I say that, bear in mind, this guy's 20 stone. He's 6'6". He hits like thunder. Looks like he's got quite a good engine. But we're going to find out, obviously. I think he's been ordered to fight in an eliminator for Dubois Championship against FB Ajagba. And if he gets past him, which I sincerely expect him to get past him, then he'll be made number 1 for Daniel Dubois. And then Daniel Dubois is going to have to step up and fight this guy. Now, let me tell you something. Martin Bakole, there's a Jamaican saying, he doesn't mess around. When he comes to fight. And make no mistake, he'll come to fight. He's like Daniel Dubois in as much as he's big, he's heavy-handed, and he's busy. He hits 2 from 3s and 4 punch combinations, which is exciting for the heavyweight division. The heavyweight division right now is flying so high. There are so many good fighters, coming into the division. They're not all world class. We've got a couple of guys over here that, Moses Atumo, He's a good little fighter, sort of good big fighter, I should say. He's 19 years of age. He's making airwaves. He's not ready for the big guys just yet, but given time, he'll be on his way. You got David Adelaide. He's another young heavyweight prospect coming through. You got Johnny Fisher. I know he's had a bad decision in his last fight, but he can overturn that. He won it, but it was very controversial. So, but he can go back to the drawing board and come again. And like I say, there's another 2 or 3 other top heavyweights that are coming through now from this country that are all going to be knocking on that World Championship door within the next 12 to 18 months.
So, Drew, the heavyweight division going into 2025 looking stacked, is looking good. Lots of exciting fights on the horizon. Going into 2025, away from heavyweight division, what are you most looking forward to in the world of boxing in 2025?
I'm looking forward to Terence Crawford making his long-awaited return to the boxing ring and seeing what his next move is, whether he stays down at welterweight or he moves up to junior middleweight. Because he, for me, is probably the pound for pound, certainly number one, or even number two. You've got Gervonta Davis, the incredible lightweight, come like welterweight. If he steps up to like welterweight, he can clean up the 10-stone division. He's down at 9 stone 9 at the moment, but I'm looking forward to that. The Riyadh season, as I've stated before, is the best thing that's happened to world, not just British boxers, but to world boxing. It's the best thing that's happened because you're getting the best fighting the best. Whether it's in here or it's in Saudi, doesn't really make any difference to me, I don't think, because, people are going to travel because they're going to want to see the best fights. You're going to get the biggest crowds and the best fights, and, you're going to get the best fight in the best. It's going to be incredible.
Duke McKenzie, thank you so much for your time this Saturday evening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Duke.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.